Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this is going to be a Dragonheir top 10 legendaries in the game, in my opinion, for Season 2. Now, Dragonheir is a new game that has burst onto the scene recently. It is free to play. I will provide all the links you need down below to get in there and try out Dragonheir. But they're doing something very interesting in the genre, which is bringing a seasonal aspect to the game. So I'm excited to see exactly how that plays out, and it seems like it's a lot of fun so far. And right now is actually the perfect time to get into Dragonheir because it's a brand new season, span new game. With Season 2 launching and introducing a whole new sandbox mode called Cairn, which brings new strategy, including elemental infinity, new heroes and artifacts, also a new optimization experience, just like a whole new game. Well, let's talk about top 10 legendaries for Season 2 and go over their kits and what makes them so great. And as you can see, I've already got the first one I'm going to talk about right here in Ashetias. Now, he is something that I got to test on the test server leading up to the few days before Season 2, and completely ridiculous for burn teams. You have the captain ability to boost the attack. Then you have the passive skill right here of basic attacks deal fire damage to enemies in 3 adjacent tiles before the hero. And when a basic attack deals damage to an enemy under burn, we're going to get more ultimate charges stacking up there. Then we have the battle skill here of dealing fire damage to enemies within range with a 75% chance that can be skilled up to 100% of inflicting a stack of burn. Again, amazing burn enabler with an ultimate right here that is the whole arena to dispel all enemy burn and then deal fire damage to them while blasting all enemies with each enemy at the center, dealing an additional 175% fire damage to surrounding enemies. You get that big splash of damage, and for each stack of burn previously dispelled from the enemy, the damage is going to get a massive multiplier increase of 75%. Now, when I was testing this guy, he was an amazing melee damage dealer. He was completely popping off, enabling burns, and doing tons of damage. So if you're able to acquire Shedius, you're going to be having a lot of fun at testing out some burn synergies and teams. Next, let's talk about Belda, which is an Ice Blast DPS hero. Now, if you're just looking to crank out damage, she has got an amazing kit for this. You can see that if the hero has ice crystals after casting a battle skill, which she's able to generate herself, we're going to consume a stack of ice crystal to cast the skill again. Lots of snowball potential there. And then damage dealt from the current skill will be increased by 25% upon triggering this effect, up to 100% of base damage. But that's not the only scaling she does. She's also got some scaling of crit damage and an aura of scaling crit damage as well, with a battle skill right here of dealing cold damage to an enemy while ignoring their shield and granting that crit damage up for 5 seconds, with an ultimate here to strike an enemy 3 times and also gain a stack of ice crystal there to then synergize with the passive skill right here. And I also want to talk about Vinyara, which is another Frost champion here, mainly because of the ultimate. Look at this thing. 900% attack to an enemy, dispelling all of their buffs and reducing their ultimate energy by 100% with a full 100% chance before you even have to invest scrolls of inflicting frozen for 5 seconds and attack penalty 2 for 10 seconds. So you get everything you need here. You get a bunch of damage. You get buff dispelling to remove that. You get the full depletion of their ultimate energy, and then also CC and attack penalties. So, I mean, talk about a cheat code for progression and just clearing content in general. An amazing ultimate here. So Vinyara belongs on the Season 2 top 10 list. Next, we've got Elasibre, who is a ridiculous support for PvP. And there's a couple reasons for that. So I love stuff like this where it's just like battle starts and it does something or it gives some sort of passive value. You have, if Elasibre's accuracy is higher than her resistance will be equal to her accuracy. That's amazing to basically get double stat value there when you're building a hero. And then as the battle starts, she deals cold damage to all enemies, but look at this, a 50% chance of inflicting blind for 5 seconds. Just passive value when the battle starts for free. You get a bunch of extra resistance and it's some damage on the field and a massive AoE crowd control with blind. And then for the battle skill, if you're talking about helping your tank line hold the front, you've got a big 30% max HP shield to an ally for 10 seconds, and they also gain 30% of that bonus resistance that LSC Braak gets to make them way tanky. So if you've got like a high HP, high resistance tank holding the front line, LSC Braak is really going to help enable them hold the line longer than your enemy's tank line. But the blind isn't the only CC, because you've got the ultimate here that is the full battlefield of giving recovery over time and defense up to all allies, with a 50% chance that can be skilled up of inflicting a charm on all enemies for 5 seconds, and a 75% chance that you can skill up again of reducing ultimate energy. So you blind, you charm, you bolster your tank line, you get a bunch of free resistance, you get the recovery over time, defense up to all of your allies, just so much stuff constantly popping off. Passive value. LSC Braak, a really fun and exciting support to bring, especially in PvP. Then for Mytha, what I want to talk about is the ridiculous ability here. I believe the only one in the game to do the full team massive resurrect here on the ultimate. We're going to grant resurrection at death to all surviving allies for 10 seconds. At the same time, we're going to resurrect all dead allies at 75% max HP and retaining 75% of the resurrected allies' ultimate energy before death. Then we're going to grant, not only that, but like that alone would be really strong. But not only that, we're going to grant debuff immunity to all allies for 10 seconds and invisibility to ranged targets. So you talk about a really scarce ultimate and an ability to do things that isn't very common in the game. So much power and impact right here on the ultimate, and that alone is worth getting Mytha on a list like this. But she also is going to be healing a massive range here that scales with enlightenment and also grants recovery over time with a passive skill right here. When an ally takes fatal damage, grant immortality for 5 seconds and a stack of recovery over time. Just so much support for keeping your team alive and effective on the battlefield. Loair is going to be one of the best rally enablers in the game. Now, rally, if you can get it built properly and get it snowballing, it can be a lot of fun and it can be very effective. You have a passive right here that is, once the hero's ultimate fully recharges, we're just going to passively grant rally to all enemies for 10 seconds. Then we have the battle skill right here. We're going to do radiant damage to enemies within range, and when an ally casts a spell that consumes rally, this skill recharge time resets. So you can just kind of sit there and constantly pop off with this battle skill, dealing damage there in front of Loair with an ultimate right here that creates a domain, massive whole battlefield, when an ally consumes rally through ultimate skills within the domain, and then recharge their ultimate energy by 25%. Consume rally if the hero is under rally when casting this ultimate, and grants 40% attack up, massive attack buff to all rally allies for 10 seconds. So lots of snowball potential again, and lots of rally enabling here for Loair. Now, something cool about Zephyr is you can build some of those like basically invulnerable teams for areas like the Vortex. You have this ultimate right here where we're going to create a magic nexus for 8 seconds, the whole battlefield, granting defense up to all allies, and over the duration of the magic nexus, if an ally's HP is below 30%, grant them an additional invincibility for the remaining duration of the nexus. But it's not only that, you also get the totem right here as the battle skill that's going to scale with enlightenment to help you out there, and then also constantly dispel buffs from enemies with a passive that again scales with enlightenment and grant shield to the ally that's targeted where it's needed most, with the current HP of being the lowest, and it's going to help them out for 10 seconds. But then also the passive skill right here where we're going to again scale with enlightenment and then target the shield where it's needed most on the ally with the lowest current HP, and then when an ally or enemy's buff is dispelled, transferred, or expires, you're going to constantly pop off that effect. And you could possibly pair a tandem with Ogok right here, because again, you have an ultimate that's going to summon a totem and grant immortality. You could stagger these a little bit and really have a team that is almost impossible to kill. But Ogok in his own right is going to be bringing a lot of utility besides that here with the totem that's also healing all allies, scaling with enlightenment, unleashing a shadow wave that bounces between targets and healing allies hit by it while also inflicting attack penalty. You always need that in all of your teams. You want that attack penalty bonus up as often as possible. And then also when healing an ally, we're going to constantly cleanse debuffs from them. Tamar is a hero that when Dragonheir was first coming out, I was talking about how ridiculous Tamar's kit looked. You've got the passive here of casting Lightning Strike on an enemy whenever they gain a buff, which is going to be happening all the time, and then a 30% chance that can be skilled up to 50 of dispelling a buff from them. Just constant passive effect there, amazing control. Then you have the battle skill here of unleashing lightning to enemies within range. We can buff up the chance to 100% chance of again dispelling a buff. And then what I talk about, bringing that attack penalty 2 for 5 seconds as well. With an ultimate that's going to unleash massive lightning damage to all enemies with a skilled up 100% chance of placing buff prohibition. So look how ridiculous the buff manipulation is. You're not only constantly passive value removing buffs, then you also have an ultimate that's going to buff prohib for 10 seconds. And then enemies without a buff, after all of this removal, you can stun them for 5 seconds. So Tamar, if you're able to hit these synergies and build the proper team around enabling Tamar to pop off, going to be some of the best control in the game. We also need to get a single target god on here if we're going to be doing a top legendaries list. And Evelios has this ridiculous ultimate right here where we're going to ignore, just passively, we don't need a set or anything or any certain gear. We're going to ignore 100% defense of the target right here, doing massive lightning damage. Then you're also going to be dealing damage and granting attack speed up to all dauntless allies with a passive right here that's going to do derivative lightning damage, which is nice. And then whenever an ally launches a basic attack, you're going to get that while also having double the chance of triggering this effect for those dauntless teams. And then last but not least, we definitely need a big time poison damage dealer, and we've got Loair filling the role with the passive that's going to be scaling derivative poison damage up to 40% of the hero's attack with a damage multiplier that targets max HP. Anybody who plays these kind of games knows how great that is. Then you have a rush towards an enemy with the lowest current HP, so great targeting ability there. Then we're going to deal poison damage to not only them, but to enemies within range with a massive chance of inflicting the 2 stacks of poison on them for 15 seconds. With an ultimate that's going to be scaling with enlightenment, and then also going to be hitting multiple enemies in a pretty big range there with another follow-up attack that also scales with enlightenment and deals the poison damage within range. So you've got this constant popping off of poisoning everywhere and jumping to targets and going crazy with a poison damage team, and scaling with the target max HP, which is obviously amazing. So there we have it for Dragonheir Season 2. That is 10 of the legendaries that I would be most hyped up to summon if I was pulling those dice to get after it here on Dragonheir. And like I said earlier in the video, I will provide all of the links that you need down below to try out Dragonheir for free and get into the exciting new action to try out one of the better games to hit the industry in recent times. So I appreciate all of you, and I will see you soon in the next video. Peace.